What's up, guys? Okay, so what are we up to today? Make It Common YouTuber again? Bridge the Gap series, season 1, episode 1. Being my gender has major disadvantages. Yeah, look, I think that's true for both genders, men and women. However, I also do think that today, in today's society, in most modern Western countries, I actually think that the advantages of being a man has been nullified in a lot of ways, and a lot of the disadvantages for women have been nullified. And so, really, I actually do think that women have more advantages in today's society than men. But that's my opinion. Let's see what they say.
Being my gender has major disadvantages.
What did he say? What did she say?
If I disagree, Ali.
Being my gender has major disadvantages.
my-
So being a woman has a disadvantage.
This one's gonna be special.
So we think that.
This is very interesting.
I actually think that,
Girl.
yeah, I think being a man has some major disadvantages to it, especially in dating. In terms of work and stuff, not too much, but I guess,
I
yeah,
feel
in
like,
some ways, yeah. In terms of sexual
Being a
harassment.
woman sometimes,
a lot of
I
that
feel like
is-
we're seen as
men are a lot more vulnerable.
as the nurturers, the people that love, and I feel sometimes as being a woman, you carry a great weight on you sometimes, especially for me being a mother. It's like you're supposed to, society sees you as someone who's supposed to nurture your family, take care of them, be strong, help everyone with their battles, and you know, you're still a person. You just like everybody else. You have thoughts, feelings. You get weak. You feel sad, just like everyone else. And I feel like sometimes that is just a disadvantage naturally.
Or the flip side of that is I feel like sometimes when you're not naturally that way, or you're not naturally emotional, or you're not naturally the person that wants to nurturing, or you just might have different ways you're quite dominant in your approach. It's seen as, not womanly.
Yeah.
Or,
That's the same as a
and
man.
that-
That's exactly the same as a man. If a man's not masculine, or if he's not dominant or anything like that, or being very leading or manly, then he's just seen as like, oh, what the hell? Or if he likes the color pink, or likes some girly drinks, or doesn't like beer, likes drinking cocktails. Okay, well then he's seen as not a man and not masculine. It's the same thing. I mean, they're just pointing out one disadvantage for gender, and you can also flip it onto the man side.
can be hard because especially as like a black woman, sometimes it can make you come off as like the aggressive black woman. Do you get what I mean? So people make you feel a certain thing because you're not acting like the typical stereotype of a woman. You just might not be emotional. You just might be a certain way. You might act a certain way, and that's okay. But we are kind of oppressed by it, yeah.
And then it would be like, why can't you be womanly enough?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like,
There you go. Why can't you be manly enough? Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think men have a lot more
disadvantage
pressure
terms
in
of
today's
just, like
society.
everyone knows the workplace.
For that sense,
Especially
in
when
that
you're
sense
dealing
of
with a
things.
very male-dominated environment. Having to adjust.
That's true. Male-dominated environment. Yeah, that's true. But that's in the workplace, and Jordan Peterson explains this quite clearly, that men often take on that role, and it is generally a gender role. And in the family nuclear structure, typically the man assumes that role, and they can be very competitive, very career dominated, and so that whole industry is dominated by men. What can you do? I mean, that's just the way it is. Unless all the women start going out to work and all the men stay home, I don't know, what are you going to do? But that would obviously go against male to female nature.
How you are in that environment, whether it's like you have to be less friendly or you have to be more, bitchier and stuff like that, just to get a certain level of respect. You can't be that, female friendly, or just because it's so misconstrued. And then it's like you can't win.
I came back because I feel like sometimes men have this feeling of being macho and thinking that they're the bee's knees, not opening up to their emotions, not being in touch with their emotions, and that can have a very negative effect on the individual themselves, to the extent that it can have massive mental health problems, because you feel like you can't open up to anybody.
That's actually true. Men have a lot more suicide rates, a lot more successful suicide, a lot greater suicide rates than women. And so what he's actually pointing out there, actually I don't know a statistic for, but I know that men don't have as much support in this area, so that would definitely be a disadvantage. Quite clear. If men don't have the same amount or nearly the same amount of support as women do, then that is pretty obviously a disadvantage for men, because we just haven't got the same tools as women do when it comes to dealing with these issues.
You feel like you can't speak to somebody about the problems which you have, but you're a human being yourself. You have the right to be upset and frustrated and sad. And you sometimes feel that I can't share my problem with someone because I won't be manly enough.
Yeah.
So I do feel like as men, personally, I need to sometimes open up and talk about how I feel and discuss my problems. Otherwise, they'll eat up inside of me and it'll cause me stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think men and women have similar disadvantages, right? So the disadvantages for women, I mean, they've got disadvantages for men, they've got similar disadvantages. In terms of the level and the amount, I think they're about the same. However, the support network and how people accept women's problems and say, oh yeah, they're really more understanding and more helpful for women and their problems, as opposed to men, which we've got virtually nothing out there. So you've got both sides with the same amount of problems, different, but same amount. But one side's getting the help they need, and the other side is just left to fend for themselves, pretty much left in the dirt. And that is why I think that, yeah, both genders have their own major disadvantages. It's just that the men get no help and no support for it, whereas the women do in today's society.
Question again? Being a male is a disadvantage. So
Disadvantage.
Your gender, your gender.
Okay.
Mine wasn't a major,
with what
but
you were
I-
saying, do you feel like, as your gender, though, it's a major disadvantage, or it's just?
I feel like being a male, which is the gender,
Yeah.
brings its stereotypes with it, as you guys are discussing.
Yeah, I agree. So men bring their own stereotypes with it. Women bring their own stereotypes with it. There's a big there's a difference there, but they're both very similar. If you want to narrow it down to a particular topic or a particular field, for example, in the workplace or in relationships or in sports or academics or anything like that, yeah, we can talk about those individually, right? Who has the advantage, who has the disadvantage. However, overall, if you want to average everything out, so to speak, then they're about the same.
The females, and being a male, you are always taught to be strong and macho, and that's important. I think that's really important. I believe in there being roles for each gender. I think that's very important for the function of society.
The balance, yeah.
Yeah, but I also feel that being too macho doesn't allow you to express how you feel at certain points in your life, which is really important, which will allow you to have positive mental health.
So I agree with you in that that's important, but I don't think it's a disadvantage.
Yeah, no,
So for me, I understand that society has defined masculinity, and that kind of skews you and puts you in one place and kind of decides how you should behave and stuff like that. But in terms of disadvantage, I don't think I'm at a disadvantage.
the stereotypes that we have for different genders
Yeah,
is a disadvantage
Yeah.
for the gender itself.
yeah.
Okay, that's my stance.
Because I wouldn't think I'm at a disadvantage. Being a man basically opens doors for me that probably a woman wouldn't.
Yeah, true, I agree.
Yeah.
In a Nigerian household,
Yeah.
if you're born a guy, you're entitled to certain rights that, because thinking about my family, my sister is a lot smarter.
Yeah, he's talking about other cultures. Yeah, sure, you want to narrow it down to other cultures, fair enough. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. He wants to narrow it down into particular little subsects and then subtopics and little subgroups. Then you narrow it down further and further and further and further and further. Yeah, sure, okay, you can point out that men have advantages in some areas, but then so do women. When it comes to childbirth, I think women have pretty big advantages when it comes to childbirth, mainly because men can't give birth, so there's no competition there. So if men want to have a child, they have to find a woman to have a child with. If women want to have a child, they just go to a sperm bank, really easy. Whereas in man, there's a disadvantage in that sense, if you get what I mean, you know, he has to actually put in a lot more work to find someone, maybe a surrogate mother, or adopt or something. Women just have to find a sperm bank. It's really simple. Anyway,
than I can ever be, no matter how I think about it. But there's
But that's
so
just
much
one
worth
example.
in me being the first boy that she can never get to, regardless of whatever, just the fact that she was born a woman. So it's just that difference between advantage and disadvantage. Just being born a man, I just have so many disadvantages.
yeah, these guys are, what they're thinking of is very surface level. They're not thinking too deep. They're thinking very surface level kind of like ideas on, oh, men get advantages because we're a man and, you know, we're considered for more things or whatever. They're very, very narrow and obvious in what they're thinking. Well, they need to think deeper and think about other things that they may not, you know, have an idea of. You know, concepts and like going into stores. If you're having trouble, who's going to help you? Women are more likely to be helped. So, you know, in a lot of different areas too.
Advantages, and her being born a woman has given her disadvantages
Stereotypes
without
as well.
her
Yeah,
knowing.
but is that because you're a woman, or is that because of the stereotypes and perceptions society has?
I would.
That's culturally, though.
It's cultural.
Yeah,
it's cultural.
that's
It's
how we-
societal. It's
It's
pretty
basically
much.
the way the world. This
If
where the
you
world
see,
is.
if you see a man and you see a woman, what are your perceptions and what kind of advantages and disadvantages do those people
Who
have?
fares off better? In
Like,
most
who fares
situations?
off better?
It is a man that fares off better in most situations.
If I decide to have a jog at 2 a.m., I can do that.
A woman has to think twice. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
we do.
Yeah, you're right.
Because
See
if
now,
you
then,
do-
see now that they're bringing up a specific example. Yeah, sure, okay. You know, you want to bring up that specific example? Yeah, you have to. Yeah, obviously, if you want to go for a jog, blah 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 blah, you just do that. What about sexual assault claims? What about, you know, what I said before, having a child? What about, you know, the rights of what men have when it comes to if you know, abortions? You know what I mean? Like, women have all those rights. He's got a massive disadvantage in that sense. In family courts, men have a massive disadvantage as well. In, you know, a lot of different crime rates, disadvantage as well. You know, men are typically locked up more often and longer than women are for the exact same crime. So again, it depends on the specific little niche that you want to talk about.
that you have to think, well,
Too many facts.
predators,
Oh, yeah.
what are people going to think I'm jogging for?
But this particular example,
You
I'll
know,
agree with.
Who am I jogging for? There's just a whole, you now face a whole
Are you
load of
jogging for
luggage.
what? Yeah, well, yeah, so that's about it. That's the end of my thoughts. Yeah, like and subscribe if you want to see more content. I'll see you guys later.